Hello everyone, my name is the Ultimate Spy, and welcome to another episode of Reviewed number 192. And today, I'm going to be reviewing Deadpool 2, the sequel to 2016's Deadpool. So, what did I think of Deadpool 2? Well, honestly, I liked it a lot. It was a lot more entertaining than the first one for sure. A lot more happened, a lot more X-Men references for sure. It's an incredible sequel. I really enjoyed it. In fact, it was teased at the very end of the first film with the the Ferris Bueller type post-credit scene talking about Cable and all that stuff, and they were gonna do it. And then we got a teaser trailer for it featuring Stan Lee. Of course, Stan Lee wasn't actually in the movie. He was in the movie as like a little like art thing. Like he was part of the movie, but like he wasn't physically in the movie, which is unfortunate. Of course, he didn't actually create Deadpool, but he is a Marvel comic creator, so that's why they put him in, because he created a lot of Marvel characters, but Deadpool wasn't one of them. But because it was a Marvel character, they wanted to honor him in some way. Much like the first one. The first one, it was all green screen. They just added him in post, which is very strange. But with this one, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot more Easter eggs and references to actually the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the first time, which is very unusual. Like, you don't usually hear that a lot. I know that in the first one there was a helicarrier, but it was like a very different style helicarrier, so it wasn't the same one. But essentially, with Deadpool 2, it has to do with Wade actually dealing with the loss of Vanessa, who unfortunately does get shot, and it's all that other stuff, and then he has to do with Cable, played by Josh Brolin, and then Russell, aka Firefist, who has these dangerous powers, and he has to try to stop Cable from killing the boy. Essentially, that's basically the entirety of the story. Essentially that. And okay, so a lot of references to the X-Men in general, because this one more closely connects to the X-Men series than the first one. The first one was confused by its own timeline because it didn't know what timeline it was. But with this one, it actually answers that question. Okay, so to start with, before I actually talk about that, the opening scene. Oh my god, hilarious. Because, well, first of all, Deadpool essentially kills himself, and then we get a little nod to Logan. I've only seen Logan once. I'm never going to watch it again because it is brutal. It's disgusting. It's so damn gory. But with that one, he makes fun of the fact that Wolverine died, obviously, because he died. He did die in that one. And he has like a little music box player thing where he clicks the little beam that's in Wolverine, and it plays the music, and it's so great. Like, obviously it's the Wolverine from Logan, that movie that it came out a year before Deadpool 2 came out, so it was great reference. I was like Deadpool apparently knows everything that goes on in the Marvel universe, everything, even the MCU, which is ridiculously crazy. But like, seriously, there's a lot of great moments in this movie. I mean, yeah, it still is violent and everything. I mean, like, oh my god, Deadpool gets freaking ripped in half. That is brutal. Him going back his lower half is actually even funnier. And apparently he does have more suits available. Makes sense to me, because I know in the first film he lost his arm, but he was able to regrow it. Essentially, like, his power is that he regrows things, but it ages backwards. So like, every body part he has ages backwards. So like, in this case, it's his bottom half, which gets cut off by Juggernaut. I'll get to that later. And essentially, it regrows, but it starts with as like a baby's bottom half, which is really funny. Like, it's so weird. It's kind of gross too, but like, still. So with the X-Men references, there's a ton of them, because it's in the X-Men universe. Obviously, they do a lot more connecting to the X-Men universe, a lot more, although it's kind of confusing a little bit. So in the first film, Deadpool asks which timeline they're in, because he's like Colossus is like, let's go talk to the professor, and he's like, McAvoy or Stewart. The timelines are so confusing. I mean, obviously it's a fourth wall break for the actual actors who play Professor X, because Deadpool likes to make those kind of jokes. but like everyone wanted to know where Deadpool takes place, like the two movies we've gotten, like that universe. Like, where does it take place? Like, which timeline? Is it the First Class timeline, or is it the original timeline with the Patrick Stewart version of Professor X? We didn't know. But apparently that question was actually answered in a scene where Wade actually goes to the X Mansion. Because, of course, he does. He did the same thing in the first film. And with that one, it's like, where's everyone? Well, they're probably in class, but also we got our first actual answer to where the timeline is. It's actually the First Class timeline. It's the timeline where James McAvoy's Professor X is, he's that version of Professor X because he didn't know which one it was. Although, it's very interesting how they were able to pull this off. So, I believe it was Dark Phoenix, that movie that I only watched once. I may watch it again, but it really wasn't worth it at all. Like, they shouldn't have even made it. Like, it was... I've seen far worse, but still. Essentially, that movie was filming at the same time as this movie, so they essentially just took the scene they had shot during the filming of that movie and then just, blended some green screen together, and that's how you got the X-Men characters in Deadpool 2. However, there's a bit of a continuity error, sort of. It's kind of confusing. So, obviously, the scene we have is where Wade is actually, standing around the X Mansion, and the scene cuts to a nearby room where all of the First Class X-Men, at least from the Apocalypse movie that we got, and actually I like that movie a lot. Despite what people thought about it, I thought it was really fun, actually. It's also the explanation of how Charles Xavier lost his hair and truly became Professor X. But essentially, that's all green screen. And based off of what we know, it takes place after Apocalypse because Storm is in it. Young Storm, the Alexander's ship Storm. And what's really confusing to me is the context and the continuity of that, because in Apocalypse she has a mohawk, and that's the first time we meet her. I mean, she's in the original movies, but this is the first time we actually meet her as a member of the X-Men. And in this scene, she has shoulder-length hair. I mean, later on in the original movie, she has longer hair. But, still, it's weird. But then you cut to Dark Phoenix, which was one of the lowest grossing X-Men films of all time, and it wasn't even that good. I didn't think it was the worst movie of all time, but it wasn't the best X-Men movie. It was just ugh. I think we could have done it without it. But essentially, Dark Phoenix, Storm's hair is growing out a little bit, but it's hard to understand where in the timeline we are, because there's a possibility that Storm had grown her hair out, and and that scene takes place after Apocalypse, and then she gets another haircut by the time Dark Phoenix comes out. I don't know, it's really weird, but we have Professor X, Beast, Cyclops, Storm, Quicksilver, Nightcrawler, everyone's there. And then you just have Beast just going silently just closing the door and I don't know what's going on in this scene, but it's just no one's talking. Apparently they didn't get paid for that scene. They didn't get paid at all. It's it just proves that actors care more about money than storytelling. I'm guessing. But still, it was a really cool scene. It really answers the question of which timeline in the Fox X-Men universe we are in. Well, which I'm calling it that because they're not owned by Marvel Studios. So eventually we're gonna get X-Men in the MCU. But still, it's the one question that we want to know is when the timeline took place. So that was a really cool scene. I did not expect that at all. I'm like, what the hell? And he also, for some reason, he's just kind of playing around in Professor X's wheelchair or X chair. I don't know if you couldn't call it that. I assume you just call it Professor X's wheelchair. But where does he get that? Is it just lying around, and does he just find it in a room? There's no context. Where does Wade get Professor X's wheelchair? I have no idea. He just suddenly has it. Suddenly he's just writing in it. I think we could have had more context with that. It just makes sense. But another thing that I was very confused about later on is because I talked about how we know that this film takes place in the first class timeline of X-Men films because they sat for a bit of it with younger characters and they had a new timeline. Makes sense, I guess. And then we have a scene where Wade is wearing Cerebro. This is the Cerebro worn by the Patrick Stewart version of Professor X. That makes no sense. Like, I get it. They wanted to put an Easter egg. Oh yeah, that's from the original trilogy. Like, I'll nod, but like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, this is the first class timeline. That is not the right version of Cerebro. We all know what the Cerebro from the first class timeline looks like. I mean, obviously it evolved over time, from first class to Days of Future Past to Apocalypse and then also to Dark Phoenix, and it was basically the same, but it looked very different from the one in the original trilogy. Like, very different. So I was very curious about that. I'm like, what the hell? Like, how does that make sense? It doesn't, but like, I was just like, huh? Like, I mean, he even jokes about Patrick Stewart. Like, he breaks the fourth wall by, saying it smells like Patrick Stewart. It's like, I mean, he's obviously like, making a joke about the actor who played him, but still, like, it's bizarre. I didn't understand that at all. It was very confusing because honestly, where would he have gotten Cerebro anyway? Because it's like, we know that Cerebro is another part of the X-Mansion in this like, hallway, and it's had a door that is only activated by Professor X's eye, and it's on a control console thing, and it's like hooked up to it. So like, how would he have gotten there? How would he have known to go there? Doesn't make any sense. And like, where did he even get it? Did he travel to a different timeline to get it? I don't understand. Is Wade a time traveler? Did he? Maybe he has a little time thing that the Cable had. I don't know. It's very confusing. I had no idea how he acquired that. And also, in the past X-Men films, where was Negasonic Teenage Warhead? Like, I know she's only appeared in the Deadpool films, but like she's an X-Men, but we haven't seen her before. Like, Deadpool was the first time we saw her. Like, I assume she was still a student when, the original films took place. A very young student, but like, she is not part of the main team. Like, in the X-Men films, there's students who learn how to control their powers and eventually probably get chosen to become part of the main team, obviously. But like, Negasonic Teenage Warhead wasn't even part of the original films, and she didn't even show up until the first Deadpool. So like, how does that make sense? I mean, I know she was part of the comics, but like, where was she all these past films? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I've been very confused ever since Deadpool 1 came out. I have been very confused about where she's been in all these movies. Like, where has she been? Like, she's suddenly a member of the X-Men? You mean like she's a student, right? She can't be a member of the X-Men. We already have a full team. Come on, like, we got Cyclops, Beast, Nightcrawler, Storm, Mystique, although she wasn't even in the scene I was talking about, and then also Quicksilver. Like, what? I don't understand it. Like, I really wish it would explain where these characters have been. Like Deadpool is the first film where we've been introduced to a brand new X-Men character we've never heard before. So, yeah, I don't know if I mentioned that in my Deadpool 1 review, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, where was she this entire time? And in the second act of the film, we have Fire Fist, who is a kid named Russell, who has the power to like shoot fireballs from his hands, and his hands are on fire essentially. And there's a point where he punches Deadpool into a building, and there's this kid, with eating cereal, and apparently he's the kid from the Legion show that plays a young David Haller, who was a Legion. It's a cool little Easter egg right there. And essentially Deadpool just grabs his cereal box and starts writing on it. And apparently he writes Ryan Reynolds' signature on a Wolverine cereal box. And this is a picture of Wolverine from the Wolverine movie, the 2013 movie. That's really cool. But also, he has a little fourth wall break, just like he did in the first one, where he references Ryan Reynolds, who, well, Deadpool is played by. Like, it's hilarious. It's like, what the hell? It's fantastic. I really like the fact that it's one thing about Deadpool that I like a lot is he breaks the fourth wall in the best way possible. It's so great. And like I mentioned earlier, the fact that Juggernaut is in this film. Yes, he does make a return after X-Men 3. It was not as well received as the other ones, although personally I enjoyed it a lot. But they had a version of the Juggernaut played by Vinnie Jones. And because the movie was poorly received, his version of the character was poorly received. Like, a lot of people criticized his line saying, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!" That's like the first thing he says. And, I mean, first of all, his version of the Juggernaut is a lot smaller, and it doesn't feel as, I don't know, fierce or something, or he doesn't feel as, like, it's like a strong man. And so, with Deadpool 2, because Days of Future Past retconned X-Men 3, they have a new version of Juggernaut. And he's bigger, he obviously has some CGI with him. I think actually Ryan Reynolds does motion capture for him, which is crazy because he's basically fighting himself at that point, if you really think about it. But this version of Juggernaut is bigger, apparently more comic accurate. I haven't read the comics, but I'm going to take people's word for it. It's pretty cool. I didn't expect that Juggernaut was going to make a return to the X-Men film series. Like, that's really cool. And maybe we'll get a new version of Juggernaut in the MCU. I mean, that'd be really cool. I would like to see that. That'd be really fun to see. But, like, at the same time, it's really cool to see a previous X-Men character come back in a new film. It's very cool. I mean, they did the same thing with Colossus. They had a new actor play Colossus, and it's a completely different version of Colossus. That I can explain. Like, how can there be two freaking Colossuses in the X-Men film series? And let's talking about the First Class timeline version of Colossus. Maybe that's why we have a different version of Colossus, because he's from the First Class timeline. I don't know. And the post-credit scenes were amazing. We have Deadpool going back in time to obviously, prevent the death of Vanessa, which is amazing, because he has Cable's little time thing. So kind of like an endgame situation. And so he goes back to essentially kill the original Deadpool, like the one that we got from the 2008 X-Men Origins Wolverine movie. Like that one. The one that everyone hated and I personally did not enjoy at all. Like, I didn't think that movie was bad. They kind of screwed up Deadpool. Like, nothing like the comics at all. So, I thought it was funny how they joked about it, and they kind of like, he basically killed himself. But he killed an alternate timeline version of Deadpool, the one that everyone hated. And he's like, just cleaning up the timeline. And then we have Wolverine, who, by the way, this is a scene originally shot for X-Men Origins. It's from the actual film, so it's like inserted into Deadpool 2. I think originally they'd use CGI for Wolverine, but no, they didn't at all. It was apparently an outtake. Apparently they had an outtake where Wolverine says, "Huh?" and he's like, "Oh, right." Like, apparently that was an outtake. I mean, I've heard other people say that it was CGI and that somehow able to make Hugh Jackman say that in that moment, but like, I'm pretty sure it's either a deleted scene or just an outtake they did. So that's probably why. And then obviously they use CGI to make the original Deadpool just fall over, and then the right version of Deadpool just shoots him a bunch of times. Like, yeah, stay dead. It was great. And then also a really, really funny moment was also when Deadpool goes back in time to when Ryan Reynolds is about to sign on to Green Lantern. And when I first saw Green Lantern, I didn't actually think it was that bad. It was actually a surprisingly fun movie, although it did have a lot of problems. I will admit, it had a lot of problems. My goodness. It was a bit of a mess. Apparently the script wasn't very good. I really couldn't tell. Sometimes it's really hard for me to understand scripts and what's bad and good about a script. But, like, it's really still funny because Ryan Reynolds hated working on that film because they had, they used a mocap suit the entire time. They didn't even have a physical Green Lantern suit. It was all horrible and everything like that. The CGI wasn't very good. They set it for a sequel that never actually happened. It was considered one of the worst superhero films of all time for that year. Bombed so hard. And so essentially what the film does is they make it so, I mean, obviously you can never get rid of a movie that already exists. But what you can do is you can pretend it never happened. So what we have is Deadpool shooting, well, basically shooting himself, but like shooting a version of Ryan Reynolds in an earlier timeline where he's about to sign up for the Green Lantern. He's like, "You're welcome, Canada," and he just like, and then Ryan Reynolds is just like, collapse. It's like, it's fantastic. So, I really enjoyed that. That was a fantastic post-credit scene. Also, I think they also had an alternate post-credit scene in the extended cut. I think it was like the super duper cut where you have him go back to in time to kill baby Hitler. I think it was actually cut because of reasons, I don't know. But still, that was great. I really, really enjoyed that. And last but not least, I have a few more things to talk about in terms of references. Okay, so first off, we have, because Deadpool is all about breaking the fourth wall, we have X-Men comic references. Like, it's so weird. So, this is obviously like, Deadpool making fun of the actual X-Men film series and the comics they're based off of. It's fantastic. But we have, when Deadpool is telling his teammates, which is X-Force, about Cable, he tells them he's not as big as in the comics, which is so funny. It's like, it's obviously breaking the fourth wall because, Cable is obviously bigger, and the people we're talking about other people who could play Cable other than Josh Brolin as he played Thanos in the Infinity War and Endgame. And it's like, he's shorter, not like in the comics, where the comic is bigger and he's a lot buffer, I guess. It was just like, yeah, great fall break. And then also, when Deadpool is learning about the new Juggernaut, he basically, references all the comic book appearances he's appeared in from all the different Marvel comics. A couple of them are obviously X-Men comics, but one of them is a Thor comic, and they have Uncanny X-Men number 183, which is apparently issue 183. You have Thor 411, and then you have X-Men Unlimited 12. Apparently those are appearances by Juggernaut, and then later on he also mentions how Juggernaut is his favorite Marvel character, which also breaks the fourth wall and in so many ways. It's fantastic. You could almost say he's breaking the fourth wall inside the fourth wall, kind of like he mentioned in the first film. It's fantastic. That's pretty much all the X-Men references that I found. They were really fantastic. I really, really thought that was a great way of joking about the X-Men series. And then also we have a bunch of MCU references. Oh my god, I was very surprised by all the MCU references because, like, like I said before, I feel like Deadpool was like, he knew everything about what was going on in the MCU somehow, mysterious, he's like the Stanley Watcher. He's like always watching everything. So one of the first ones, it's not like a name drop reference, it's more like a song reference actually. So when Cable arrives from the future, there's these two rednecks chilling at their truck. He drinks them and then steals their truck, and then one of the songs that plays from the truck's radio is actually a song from the Guardians of the Galaxy films, which is fantastic. So not only it's an 80s song, but like it's so cool. I love that. It's a fantastic Easter egg. And then also he mentions Hawkeye. He says, you give me a bow and arrow and I'm basically Hawkeye. It was great. I love that. So good. And then we also have when Wade describes Cable, who's obviously the villain of the film. He describes him as the guy with a Winter Soldier arm, which is obviously a direct reference to the Winter Soldier from the MCU. Obviously the Bucky Barnes. It's fantastic, because also it's a joke because both Cable and Winter Soldier both have metal arms. It's fantastic. Although Cable is actually a cyborg, so it's kind of crazy like that, but still. And then also when Wade mentions getting a team together, he talks about having the team members be young enough that they can carry a franchise 10 to 12 years. Which may be a reference to Tom Holland wanting to play Spider-Man for 10 plus years. Like he said, he could do that if he wanted to. Like he's going to continue playing Spider-Man for as long as he can. Or it's actually a reference to the fact that Fox had a bunch of plans for standalone films, which obviously got canned because Disney bought Fox. But like, it's still a really cool idea. But also like, it's a possibility that he was also joking about films that would have been based off characters in the movie, but also like possibly having the Deadpool franchise go beyond 2 films, which is actually I think a joke in the trailer actually. How Weasel says that probably never gonna make a third one, and it's like great reference, by the way, great fourth wall joke, but like still fantastic. And then also later on when Wade is in Blind Owl's apartment and he's recovering from losing his bottom half, his lower half is regenerating as baby legs. And then Domino, one of my favorite characters in this movie because she's all about luck. She's just lucky all the time. And that's actually a joke about it not being an actual power. It's still a great skill. And then he calls her Black Widow, which is obviously a reference to, the MCU character, obviously, Black Widow. But also the fact that the actress herself is actually African American, also known as Black. It's a great joke, honestly. But like at the same time, it's also, how does Wade know all this stuff? How does he know all of these MCU characters? Again, like I said, I think he might be keeping tabs on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know. It's confusing. It's weird, but still. And then also in the third act, Deadpool calls Cable Thanos, which is a hilarious reference to the fact that he played Thanos in Infinity War Endgame, and also the fact that Josh Brolin's cast to play Cable in Deadpool 2. It's fantastic, man. I honestly would have preferred someone else to play him, but at the same time, I still think he did a good job with the character. I think if someone else could have played him better. Just my opinion, but like, because it's just weird to have, you know, Josh Brolin play two different Marvel characters in two different universes. Although it's a simple explainer, two different universes. But still, it was a great reference. And then also when Deadpool is facing off against Juggernaut, he tells him, "Hey, big guy, it's getting real low," which is a fantastic reference to how Black Widow would get Hulk to actually turn back into Bruce Banner, which is fantastic. So that was a great reference. That's pretty much all of the MC references I could find. And actually, there are a few DC references. Who would have thought? But yeah, there's quite a few actually. So there's a couple of them being Batman. We have when Deadpool introduces himself to Cable, he says, "I'm Batman," and then also when he arrives late to his anniversary with his girlfriend Vanessa, he talks about Cable's Crusader. You know, obviously a reference to Batman. You know, the reason why he's being late. And then also when Wade is actually fighting Cable, he says, "You're so dark. You're sure enough from the DC universe," which is really kind of funny, but also apparently that's a reference to the fact that Josh Brolin actually played Jonah Hex, which is actually a DC character. Apparently that film was not well received at all. It was actually a bomb, so kind of a good joke right there. And then also when Deadpool is getting the team together, he meets this alien, Shatterstar, who is actually, you know, from another planet, obviously. And Deadpool makes a joke about, you know, the other planets and the fact that, you know, that if you were to go into another planet, he would basically be the Superman, which is another great reference to the DC universe. But also, if you think about it, Deadpool is go back to Ryan Reynolds from Signing On to Green Lantern. It could be on another DC reference, like, you know, making this awful DC movie. Still, that's pretty much all I can say about Deadpool 2. It's a really funny. It's I don't know. They do a lot better at connecting it more to the X-Men series. Definitely, obviously, we know it's part of the First Class timeline, but still at the same time, it's a great sequel, and I really, really enjoyed it. It had some great actors, obviously Ryan Reynolds, but also like Terry Crews was in it, Josh Brolin. I mean, those are some of the big stars actually. But like at the same time, it was great. It was a fantastic film. It was super funny. I mean, yeah, violent and lots of F-bombs and all that stuff, lots of it. But like at the same time, it was great. You know, I love the time travel aspect of it, you know, Cable bringing from the future, everything like that. It was great. You know, obviously lots of fourth wall breaks. Just it is a great job of that, and it's really fun, and I really, really did enjoy it. It was great. You know, really, it's meant to be a family film, but it's obviously much more than that. It's just like, it's great, and obviously we're getting a sequel eventually. They're working on it, so that'll be interesting. But still, really, really enjoyed Deadpool 2. It was great, and obviously Ryan Reynolds is still great in the role. He's just born to play that role, but still. And I don't think I'm gonna give it. Well, I don't want to give it a perfect score, but I think because of the you know, the continuity errors that I kind of felt were a bit much, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. But I'm giving it a pretty high score because I like the references. The references were really fun. Really a great way of making it, you know, a really funny fourth wall break superhero film in the X-Men universe, but still great film. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Reviewed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe for more episodes of this series. Also, make sure to hit that bell to enable alerts so you don't miss any of my uploads. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Right? See you.